Hello, good evening, and welcome back. A fresh terror attack has happened in Berlin. Thankfully, quite a minor one, but it does pose the question as to what can be done about such incidents as has happened here. Because, essentially, a car driver was targeting motorcycles and rammed three of them on motorways, thus causing incredible harm and damage to the individuals, resulting in a life-threatening situation for at least one of them. And whenever you get to these things, obviously we'd love to get down to the root cause, which we will get to here. But just on the offset, you go, okay, cool. How can we stop this? How can we allow individuals to have the freedom and the capability and the liberty in order to prevent this from happening to them? And it is an incredibly tricky situation because, of course, you want to stop the car that's responsible as soon as possible, and you want to get yourself to safety as soon as possible as well. So the short-term initial advice is, if you see a dangerous driver like this, then get out the way. If it means you're stopping on a motorway, then stop on a motorway. The hard shoulders are there for a reason. And as a motorcyclist especially, you go to the barrier and you can hop over to the other side if necessary. Yes, it's not the safest of things if it's in the middle of the road, but it's safer than the alternative of being run over. In terms of stopping the car, I know that us freedom-loving types would say, well, hey, an equivalent to the Second Amendment would help a lot. But in this situation, it really wouldn't. Especially if you're driving a motorcycle and then trying to shoot at the same time. It's incredibly impractical. It looks great in movies, but you don't know where the rounds are going off. There are going to be other drivers around as well, and it's going to be so difficult to try and hit the car in question that is very, very infeasible and just dangerous, endangering other drivers as well. Stingers are quite popular, but having them for individual drivers, especially for motorcyclists, isn't going to be feasible. In which case, your best bet comes down to other individuals of road users who are driving cars at the same time to try and block off the dangerous driver, but at the same time, of course, they would be endangering themselves, and they may not wish to quite possibly get into a heated argument with somebody who could very well be armed. But given that the police take a while to respond, that last option seems to be the best bet, which as a motorcyclist is appalling because all you've got to do is pull over, stop, and get to safety, and you're reliant on other car drivers to obviously report to the police as well. Not that you should be using your phone while driving, but we'll let it slide this time, as well as trying to prevent that driver from hitting other motorcyclists should they wish to get themselves in a harm way like that, as that is also dangerous, especially at motorway speeds. But for the incident in question, maybe if we can treat the cause instead of the symptom, we can prevent it from happening. So, a man who rammed three motorcyclists on a motorway in Berlin is being investigated for what prosecutors say was an Islamist-motivated attack. And why would they say that? Well, witnesses said that it was a 30-year-old Iraqi suspect who claimed to have a dangerous object in a box of ammunition, which were later found to just be tools. However, after the deliberate attacks on the A100, the attack is being investigated as having either a political or religious motive, but prosecutors have not ruled out psychological issues. Well, if it's an Islamic extremist, then they go hand in hand. If they believe the fundamentals of Islam, then there are clearly psychological issues. And they say, because of the circumstances, we don't see this as a random accident, Mr. Steltner said. Latest indications point to an Islamist-motivated attack, as he went after one, then another, and then another, taking them off the road. So, the reason for them suggesting it was Islamist and not just because of his nationality was that after the crashes, the man was said to have placed a metal box on the road. According to sources quoted by the Tech Spiegel website, he shouted, "Allahu Akbar," and "Nobody come closer or else you'll die." And the Allahu Akbar is a real big indicator that you're probably speaking with a Islamist extremist there. So the man in question is believed to have been in Germany in refugee camps and was radicalized there. So that begs the question of how the hell are they being radicalized in refugee camps where they are supposedly being away from war, and it's just the refugees and the people who are trying to escape their own shithole countries, as they stand at the moment, war-torn areas, and therefore, of course, would not wish to inflict that on the local area. Well, I put it to you that maybe they're not all refugees. Maybe if they're fighting age men, then they wish to use their age for fighting. And of course, we must also be concerned in the UK, seeing as we've got a record number of migrants coming across the channel, that why are they coming to the UK if they've got safe harbour in other countries? What is it that they intend to do in the UK? Is it more subversive but less physical, which is they're just taking advantage of the social welfare system? Or is it more malicious and insidious in trying to plot something like, of course, we saw in Manchester not so long ago, but they'll be attempting to do more terror-related activities like we've seen in Berlin? Of all the ways to perform terrorism, then this has to be one of the weaker ways, but also one of the more difficult ways to stop, because they even mention from the Christmas market attacker who killed 12 people, left 49 injured in December 2016 because he drove a truck into a crowded Christmas market, that is clearly a more effective way of taking people out, of killing people, but it's far more difficult to do than just ramming motorcyclists on a motorway. Is the latter very effective? No, not really. Is it difficult to stop though? Yes, it is, which is why the best I can suggest is down to the individual motorcyclist to just say, pull over. And of course, when it comes to letting people in your country, understand exactly why they're coming in and who they are, and don't allow a environment to be fostered which encourages such Islamic fundamentalism. The same goes for Berlin refugee camps, and the same goes for British prisons. It's the same issue that we have in our jail system at the moment, where people get radicalised in prison because the police or the guards are too afraid of being called racist in order to point it out. So that is what we've got to focus on, more so in its entirety, of course, and not be afraid so much of being called racist, because we're pointing out things that are actual concerns and threats. And until that is understood by the left with their censoring, then it's not going to change. So again, it's the free speech that we need. And yes, you will have some people who are opportunistic and calling people terrorists when they're not. But then look into it and you'll understand, oh, this person has no idea what they're talking about. Fair enough. Which I think is far better than saying, oh, we're going to ignore this massive problem. And I'm not saying target individuals just on somebody's word. I'm saying that maybe you should look into it if we're having problems and a lot of people are speaking out. You're not going to imprison people without just cause and going through the legal system, but you are definitely going to be looking at exactly what is happening, and if they're actually plotting terror attacks, then stop them before they happen. Splitting people up and preventing such threats and terror ideology from being allowed to be spoken, from being allowed to recruit people into the fore. That's what you would do about it. But as always, especially in a difficult situation like this, let me know what you guys think down below. I'm particularly intrigued to hear how you would suggest saving an individual motorcyclist who was in this situation if they saw such a thing happening and car driver getting too close, or what they should do if they saw them take out one of their friends further down the road. Please do let me know. And of course, for anything else of how to deal with it from its root source, of course, shutting the border and knowing who comes through, I think, is the most straightforward way. And as always, like, subscribe, all the good stuff, and until next time, have a good one.